I believe if you had to pick one tool to transform your life, it would be journaling. So in this video, I'm gonna show you the start to finish guide, how to set up, keep, why you should keep a journal, how to do it. And part of our tradition here to keep it fun, keep it light, is we have some funky outfits. I like to show off the Halloween fit for the year. 3, 2, 1. Here's a format so you can follow this video. We're gonna go over why, what, then how. Why you should journal, what this method actually looks like, and then I'll show you the how-to of how to set it up and start using it in your life. Here's the 3 most important reasons you should keep a journal in Dracula's opinion. Success leaves clues. Look at the people who kept journals. Da Vinci, Warren Buffett, Einstein, Ben Franklin, Steve Jobs. Most of the greatest minds throughout history have kept some form of journaling. Number 2, there's a good lesson in this story. A platoon is dropped off out of a helicopter in enemy territory. They get down in a jungle. Jungle is so thick, they're freaking out. They're like, we gotta get out of the jungle. So they just start taking a machete and chopping down every single thing in sight to try and make it out in a panic. One of the soldiers says, where are we going? And the others reply, who cares? Keep cutting. We got to get out of here. And so they're cutting. It starts occurring to the soldier, maybe I should see where we're actually going. So he climbs a tree and he screams, wrong jungle, wrong direction. They were cutting into enemy territory, not out of it. It doesn't matter how fast you're cutting if you're moving in the wrong direction. Applying that to your life, I think that so many times in life, we're just going through, we're just cutting away. We get like these massive insights and breakthroughs, and then we forget about them, and then we relearn them the hard way in 6 to 12 months when they happen again. Keeping a journal is an area you can distill all of that in one place. It's how you climb the tree and see the visibility on where you're actually heading in your life and where you've been. Because the longer you do this journaling, I can look back on 2020, 19, 18, all the way to like 14, 13, 12, and see like how I've grown, how I've progressed my thought process. And so that's such a powerful tool for you. I mean, imagine if you had logs of yourself 10 years ago and you could get all the lessons that you learned from 10 years ago. And I've realized this, so many times we go looking for answers, right? And nothing wrong here. You know, you go ask your friends, family for support, what should I do? How many times do we stop and listen for the answers? That's exactly what your journal is. That's what it becomes. It becomes a place where you can listen for the answers. A little history of like how I came up with this is when I was in my 20s, when I first started doing this, I noticed that I would keep like 6 different journals. One was on self-improvement, and then it was a little notebook of like business ideas, and then it was a notebook of like dating and relationships and navigating that area. And then it was another notebook of like fitness tracking and everything I was doing like health-wise. And then I looked at the pile here and I had like 5 or 6 different journals. And I'm like, man, it'd be really great if I just had one journal and I just divided it into 6 sections and kept all of those. And so I did that the following year and beefed out the front and back cover like I'll show you. And that's how the 6-in-1 journaling method was formed. So in short, you take a journal, I use this blank sketchbook, and you divide it into 6 sections. We'll go over some sections when we start setting this up, but they can be anything. We'll do a little structure here. Let's do the front cover. Then we'll talk about setting up your back cover, what you actually put in there. And then we'll talk about the 6 sections. Step number 1, get your journal. Step number 2, I like to write on the spine right here, your name and the year. Once you have that, you start building out the front cover. Here's the first 2 pages. Now this is very important. What I do on the right side of the page is any of the best like 1% quotes that I learned that year, I'm putting them there. Example, the whole universe is change and life itself is but what you deem it. Marcus Aurelius. If that ain't a 1% quote, I don't know what is. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Woo! Here's an example from 2020. Significance pushes people away, vulnerability draws them in. Reminding yourself to open and loosen up instead of trying to posture and be the serious, I'm the best, I'm the coolest. We can't connect to perfect. don't rush to fill this up. Like, you're gonna fill this up over the course of a year. I don't know if I've said this already, but you keep your journal for an entire year and then you swap it out regardless if it's full or not. It's okay if it has extra pages in it. And in that way, you can keep things real neat and organized. One note on why we do these in the front cover. I like your front and back cover because those are the areas that you're gonna see the most. And if you know anything about how your subconscious mind reprograms and influences you, most of your thoughts are subconscious. They're not like actually conscious. About 80, 90% of every single thing you do, your habits, your routines, all of that, your thought process is beneath the surface of the iceberg. It's subconscious. That can only be reprogrammed in one of two ways. Emotions, real strong emotions that like stick with you, stories, images, growing up, you know, you're in more of a subconscious state when you're a kid. That's why you're soaking everything in. Your childhood affects you later on in life, whether you realize it or not. The second, though, is repetition. What you do over and over and over and over again becomes a subconscious program. And that's what you do in this whole journal. So every single time you're opening this, if you read it, even if you just glance at it for a brief second, you're influencing that subconscious mind with the 1% quotes that you want. Isn't that cool? We talk about this every single journaling video, and it's so important because this is an eye-opener. This number right here is pretty powerful that someone, I believe it was like 5 years ago, sent me a photo on Instagram and she got that number tattooed on her wrist. So what is that number? Why does it make people want to tattoo it on them? I'll tell you about that, but guess this number, 32,850. What is that number? That is the amount of days you have from birth until you're 90 years old. It's 32,850, 365 times 90. You're going to subtract a lot of days because we've already lived a third of that. And the other thing is there's no guarantee we're even making it to 32,850. Average life expectancy here in the States is what? Somewhere in the 70s? When you heard that number, is that more or less days than you thought? If you're like me when I first heard that number, I was like, dude, if I only had $1 for every day I lived, at the end of my life, I'd have a whopping 32,000 bucks. And with inflation, it'd probably be like $302. That's not a lot for a whole lifetime. That was a very sobering truth for me. And you're like, well, that's morbid, Clark. Why would I want that? Someone who did this and was very successful was this guy, Steve Jobs. Biography is absolutely amazing. This was one of my favorite reads this year, side point. He said that every single morning, he'd wake up and he'd look himself in the mirror. And he'd say, if today was my last day on earth, would I be satisfied with what I'm about to do today? How I'm about to live? If the answer was no, too many days in a row, he knew something had to change. Top 5 regrets of the dying. The first one, I wish I would have lived a life true to myself, not the one others expected of me. Stoic philosophy has this, memento mori. Remember that one day you must die. For me personally, this number has shattered many limiting beliefs. When you're like, dude, I only got 21,000, 22,000 days left, time's ticking, let's go. You don't have to do that, but that's an entry that has served me very well. Wrapping up this front cover, the last thing I put down here is your signature strengths. There's so many strengths tests out there, whether it's Myers-Briggs. I like the Authentic Happiness one by Martin Seligman. Common trait when you study happy people is they know what they're really good at, what their strengths are naturally, and they use them often. An analogy is, I have a German Shepherd. If we don't take him play every single day, he literally gets depressed. Like, he's sulking around the house. He brings you the balls all day for like 8 hours, and then he finally starts giving up when he realizes it ain't happening, buddy. And he just sits there and pouts and looks at the floor like this. His strengths of retrieving and sprinting at that ball with his 3 legs has to be used every day for him to feel like awesome. And I think it's no different for us, that if you have strengths that are dormant inside of you, you're not feeling like you're used. You know, you're in a job that maybe isn't very stimulating and you go into work and you're just like creatively uninspired and unchallenged. You're not gonna die, but inside you might slowly wither away. I know that can be soul-sucking, I've done it. Versus now I have a job that's literally able to use creativity, love of learning, curiosity, wisdom, hope, humor, and playfulness all in one. I come alive, I look forward to it, I'm on fire for it. Now let's get into the back cover. This is where you write down your goals for the entire year. And I like to just divide them into 3 sections: work, rest, and play. Think of a triangle. okay? An equilateral triangle, all right? So if you have 3 points on it, obviously, you have work, rest, and play. Now, if one of those areas is off balance, it's no longer a perfect triangle. Obtuse, obsolete, what is that? In other words, you need these 3 areas to be in balance for you to be functioning optimally. The times where you're resting and playing too much in life, and there's not a lot of work, you kind of feel bored maybe, or unchallenged. There's only so long you can do that for before you just kind of feel like a slob. But the times you're working and playing too much, but there's no rest, that's when you burn out. The finance bro on Wall Street, right, eventually crashes, like mid-30s. He just wakes up and he's like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And if you're doing nothing but resting and working, there's no play, you're also going to feel like, what's the point of this? I'm just a machine going to work every day and I have no fun. So I think you should set intentions or goals for those every single year. There's studies on goal setting and how effective it is. Well, let's not get into the science here, but in general, the people who set goals are like 10 times more likely to hit them than people who just have loose, oh, I'm thinking of getting in shape this year. I'm thinking of making X amount of dollars this year. So what are work goals? Your work goals are anything that are quantifiable. Okay, so think numbers and metrics, yang, output, right? Very like hot. Check it off and you write it down. Metrics are really good here. So I think you should break it down into smaller chunks. And to me, that's so much more motivating than just, it's either an on or off. Either I hit it or I don't. Again, work goals are output. Now your rest goals. If your work goals are output focused, your rest goals are input focused. Yin energy, recharging, rejuvenating. I like to think of your health and your spirit here. Mental, emotional, physical. How do you want to recharge this year? Maybe this is meditating for 100 days, doing a challenge. Maybe this is getting to a certain amount of body fat or a certain weight goal or health goal that you have. Celery juicing. Like, these can be anything. These can be kind of wacky or ideas that you've had. And then your play goals. Vacation mode, fun mode. You want to go on any trips. You want to travel. Back when I would do backpacking, I would put that on here. Like, yeah, I want to go to Chiang Mai this year. I want to go to Thailand and Indonesia and Bali and Cambodia, and maybe I'll save up $2,000, $3,000, do it on the cheap and fly over there, buy a one-way ticket and just like live. I did that while I was in my mom's basement, just stockpiled $3,000, went over there with a one-way ticket and lived in $5 a night hostels, $2 meals. It was an adventure. And do you think if you set those, you're going to be more or less excited to go into work? More or less excited to like go about the year? Those get you so amped up. So what kind of fun do you want to have? One thing that I think works even better than goals is creating a new identity. Okay. And this is actually a section we have in our metamorphic journal. It's called the manifesto. And this is where you get super clear and you design this dream character. We have a step-by-step like process that works better than anything. This is literally my life's work, but it's kind of like the KFC secret sauce. So I don't give it here on YouTube. And that's why I didn't show you this year or last year's journal, because we started doing it and teaching it. And it's like a vision board meets goal setting meets character design on steroids. It's insane. But that's what we give our metamorphic coaching clients, is like not just work, rest, play. Okay, here you go. But we literally help them design this 2.0 version of you, this like dream version of yourself, and go into this year with that energy. I think we really struck gold with this format. I'm not trying to brag here, but I've seen this literally transform people's lives in 6 months. Like, one woman was in a nursing job, wanted to be a writer, didn't have any experience, and then in 6 months time flat, she's published in a magazine. People who just got out of a relationship, you know, they're in a rut, they want to reinvent themselves, and then in 6 months time, they're in a better spot, they're healed from that relationship, and they're attracting a better one. One of our clients who was an engineer wanted to do content and like start making a life for himself outside of just his career, but he didn't have any experience. 6 months time, launched a podcast, and now he's interviewing some of the same guests that are on Joe Rogan. When I created 2.0 Clark, when I came to Arizona, quadrupled my business, and things have only been up since. Things happen so fast when you're able to create and shift into that 2.0 you. And so for you in your journal on who that is. And we have some videos on that as well, designing a dream character, but like, who's the next version of you that you need to become? Not focusing on where you've been in the past and getting trapped in those stories and beliefs, but focusing on who you need to be and where you're going. No better spot than your journal, and no better time of year than now to do that. And if you want tools like the manifesto and one of these journals and everything like that, I'll link down below where you can apply or get some more information at the very least for our Metamorphic program, as well as some of our students who have been in there, so you can hear from their words, in their own words, their experience and their results instead of just mine. Now let's talk about what you actually put in the journal. All this meat in here. If this is your first time journaling, what I would do is choose 5 areas, no more than 5, can be less, that you really want to focus in on this year. These could be your health, these could be self-improvement, these could be books you read, these could be launching a new business or some creative venture. You're going to count about 20 pages for each, 4 or 5, something like that. You're going to write the title of that section. So for this one, I have in my 2022 journal, I have student. So this is anything I'm a student of. Events, masterminds I go to, I fill up pages with this. Courses I take, books I read, anything that I'm a student of, I'm putting here. The next section is Metamorphic. So for me, this is my team of coaches that I'm leading and training, our clients, the impact we're having, new features we're rolling out, new content ideas. My third section is YouTube. So ideas for videos. You might be asking here, well, can I just do this all online? Can I do this digitally? Like YouTube, isn't it make more sense to like write and type videos? That's a very good question. Let's talk about that. So I do both. I have video outlines on my computer, absolutely. I have ideas, but I find that like nothing replaces hands to paper, slowing down. And I think that so much of this digital age, we're speeding up, and you're on TikTok, which, just fun. It's very entertaining. But in 60 minutes minimum, you're going to see 60 different pieces of content, 60 different ideas, 60 different styles, 60 different 3-step videos, 60, you get it. And maybe it's even more because you can't even watch 60 seconds. We'll swipe again and maybe it's 15. People are watching Netflix and then they're on TikTok at the same time, and maybe there's music in the background too. Like, you have so many different stimuli around you. And so I think the world is speeding up more and more and more, and it's like this frantic neuroticism. So the advantage in how you combat that is not to do more, it's to do less. It's to slow down. And in doing less, you're able to go from this like neuroticism of like panic to much more chill, calm, focused. So I find that removing distractions, taking time to slow down and get your thoughts on paper, just try it out. It really does change how you think and how you process. 2017 journal, this one's a cool year. I'll show you a few things. Book notes section. So if you're reading a bunch of books, self-improvement books, or you're listening to them on Audible, maybe it's a good idea to make a list of like your big ideas from them. Here's mine in Unshakable. It was a finance book I'm reading. And so I'll just put like the big ideas here, right? Like 10 of them. And then I'll just put any notes I got from the book. And so now this is cool because instead of rereading that book over and over and over again, or even skimming through 200, 300 pages and looking at highlights and annotations, you can just boom, flip open to your journal, and in one page, you got it right there instantly. This one from my 2023 journal on the happiness hypothesis. Here again, I'm going kind of chapter by chapter with the big ideas and notes. Sometimes it's a 1-pager, sometimes in this case it's 1 and 2 pages for an entire book. Do I do that for every single book? Absolutely not. But if you find those like real good ones that blow your mind, I find that studying a book, one book like 10 times instead of 10 books one time, personally for me, has gotten me more results. You guys like behind the scenes stuff? You want to see an example of like the YouTube video before and after and everything? All right. We did a video called How to Design Your Life. And that video started with just an idea of like me illustrating different phases of your life and a tree like branching off if you take different paths. So I had that idea here and I sketched out like 1, 2, 3, 4 different 5. This was the main ideas. You start here, you have a dream, and then maybe you take some detours or setbacks and they take you away from where you want to be. So I broke it down further and I said, okay, what are the 5 steps? How does that look? I filmed the video walking over all 5 of those steps. And that video I think did pretty well for us. So that's an example of seeing it visually, and then it makes more sense and you can talk about it once you understand it. A couple frequently asked questions I know you're probably thinking if this is your first time. How often should I journal? That's a very good question. My answer might surprise you. I don't think you should keep track. And here's why. If you set a goal like, I'm gonna journal every single day no matter what, it kind of turns the process into just another thing on your to-do list of like, oh, I have to get up and journal because I said I was gonna. And in that way, it turns something into an obligation. Now, I've always said this, and why I've been able to keep a journaling habit for 10 years with zero resistance is because I don't set any intentions on how much I have to journal. I don't set any numbers on it. You need to approach your journal from a place of inspiration, not obligation. I think that's a good rule for any change, is the more obligation you feel to doing something, it's kind of like having a nagging parent growing up. Like, did you eat your vegetables? Did you take your vitamins? It makes you hate vitamins. I was forced to take piano lessons growing up. I don't know about you, but it was the fastest way to make me hate piano. I never wanted to touch it because I had to sit there and like, oh, this is so boring. But then I found drums and it was something I could do whenever I wanted and I had no rules with it, so I ended up doing it all the time. Treating yourself that way as an adult is also beneficial. Yes, you need parameters and guides, but journaling, don't make it one of those things that like you have to do every day, otherwise you fail. No. Be really easy on yourself here. A state of inspiration with journaling, not obligation. Another common question is, okay, why do you use a blank sketchbook? For me, writing in the lines always felt like school and work. When I did away with lines and just had a blank page, it changed the game for me. It's just personal preference, but I love a blank page because you can draw, you can write anywhere. For the longest time, I was using just solid like sketchbooks right here. And then what I did is I'm like, I want to make the most high quality custom blank sketchbook with like a few trackers in here and everything like that. That's really badass. And so I worked with the company and actually designed our physical product right here. This is our metamorphic journal. Super high quality, nice little like faux leather cover. Even got the little dangly marker right here. And I ordered 1,000 of these for our coaching clients. Now, unfortunately, we don't sell these, so any sketchbook will do that you can find. We send these out to every single one of our coaching clients. I write a personal little note in there when they join our metamorphic program. My point here is get something that's really high quality and that you look forward to using. In my opinion, you shouldn't just use like a little composition book that can get roughed up, because I bring this thing with me everywhere. I mean, you can see like some of these journals, look at that. It's like super roughed up. I don't leave the house without it. You want something that can take a beating. Now that you know what a journal is, why you should do it, and how, I'll link up the perfect video for you to watch. It's 5 coaching questions that'll help you coach yourself. That's what we've been talking about, right? I'll link it up there. It's perfect. Go click it. And more importantly, use those 5 questions to improve yourself. I'll see you there.